Trying to get you in a hotel, but take your clothes up. I'm on Ricey. I put you on Ricey so you know it. Welcome back to another episode of Dream Chasers Insanity. I'm cleaning up a couple of stuff right now, but we're about to get into an episode I've been waiting to do for a minute now. So check me out. Let me know how you feel about that. Get your popcorn ready. Get your grass ready. Get your partner ready. Whoever you're watching this with, get your pets ready. Get your friends ready. Get your mind ready. And let's get into some nonsense today. All right, before we get into anything, if you'd like to donate to the channel, you can go ahead and hit our Patreon link, which is going to be down in the description. Or if you'd like to rep some of the merch that we got on the site, which I know I should probably be wearing more of if I'm promoting it every episode and I'm not wearing it. But you got to wait for my samples to come in. So patience is a virtue in this reality that we live in of constant consuming. So wait for me to get my stuff. You can go ahead and get yours early. And if you get pictures of yours before I get mine and mine, then you can send them to me and I can put them on the website. And maybe we can make this a little community engagement. So if you want to participate in building this channel from the ground up, a little grassroots type situation, go ahead and hit those two situations. And if that isn't something in your forte today, then go ahead and hit the like, comment, subscribe, and just get us pushing through the algorithm. A little too much saturation with all these fake Clipper Farm accounts and people reusing and repurposing other people's content to go viral instead of genuine content creators coming up with their own organic stuff. So hopefully I can contribute to that organic side of creators that we're cultivating on the platform, and you guys can be here for the journey, appreciating kind of what comes of it. I'm sure you're going to get enough from just reading the board, and the only reason why I give you this is just to give you a little prepper to decide whether or not you should prepare the food that you're going to eat while you watch this, or the workout that you're going to do while you listen to this. Kind of set your circumstances. Understand how you're going to approach this episode for us. But the inspiration for this, I was really just going to make this like one of those little rant vlogs that I do. I kind of just like put up the camera and just talk in my car. But then I realized this is actually like almost a story that I need to tell, a progression of how we may be perceiving a lot of people in our lives that we deem victims or not villains incorrectly. And in doing so, we exacerbate a reality of like hyper policing. I was looking for another word, but it was just one. And also, we continue to exacerbate a society of self-rejection and the need for external validation, not only external validation, but external salvation. So we as a community don't feel like we can help save each other and support each other, and we as individual people don't feel like we can participate in saving ourselves, at least from the circumstances that bog our everyday lives. Because if we're pushing the responsibility for our own day-to-day, A to Z, morning to night onto somebody else, then who's taking care of their business? And who's taking care of their business? And who's taking care of theirs if nobody has the strength to overcome their own circumstances and challenges? And you know what's wild about living in like a hyper shame-filled culture is not only will we not allow people opportunities to grow in healthy communities, or at least with healthy foundations, but on top of that, when people do decide, hey, you know what? I'm in some pretty bad circumstances right now, and I'm going to make decisions that probably aren't generally acceptable, but decisions that I need to make to better my circumstances, then you're also shamed out of making those decisions. We can get real in depth right here, but I don't want to take too much time apart from this video. If you want this video, I'll make another one. But just think about people who are in the sex work industry and how for those of our brothers and sisters and our friends that are in that industry, they are shamed. More times than not, there's just an inability to be able to work a traditional corporate 9-to-5 lifestyle job. And that's something that we accept as non-traditional creative people on this page. But it's funny how they're shamed for the work that they do. And then the shame only increases as people see the success in the path that they're taking in spite of that shame. And then you have to be, even though you're succeeding and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing in an unconventional way, you are literally influencing the insecurities of these people who followed all the rules, but they aren't getting what they were supposed to get or what they expected out of this reality. But you're doing something that you're not supposed to do, but you're getting the things, not just the things they wanted, but you're getting more than the things that they wanted out of this reality. And you, in existing on this side of reality, are shattering the expectations and the status quo that they had built that was allowing them to comfortably exist in that ignorance. So we can definitely get more into that about like the industry and whatnot. But I'll probably have to do that video outside of here because I don't want to like be speaking necessarily directly about that. There's a bunch of kids in here. So we'll keep this kind of as PG as we can. But before we get into this too much, I want to let you guys know that this isn't... I know we live in a society where people are really seeking identity and seeking acceptance. And I'm not giving you this identity of being the villain to say like, you know what, you're just like, you're a rebel, bro. Like, you're cooler than everybody. Like, nobody accepts you because you're just better than them. Like, I'm not trying to put that in your mind. I'm not trying to coddle up your ego like that. I don't believe anybody is deserving of isolation because they're just so much better than other human beings. But one thing I do want you to understand from this video when we get into it is that it's all about how you're able to wear the mask of the villain and utilize that to create a reality that allows you to not only exist in your authentic self, but accept that and then externally be appreciated in helping grow that. We're not seeking to stay the villain forever. The whole entire point of assuming the mask of the villain, of assuming the role of the villain, is to recognize that you have to disappoint people to meet your needs. And many of us who grow up in whether traumatized or dysfunctional foundations, or people who just kind of grow up with that reinforced people pleaser identity, we feel like it's almost like death disappointing people. But in thinking like that, we don't realize that every single one of our dreams, every single one of our goals, every single one of our passions, we have to keep on sacrificing for ourselves in order to serve, not disappointing somebody else. Putting ourselves in complete service of others who will then validate us because we are not willing to or don't feel like we are worthy enough of doing for ourselves, serving ourselves, and then gaining validation from the consequences of doing so. Everyone's waiting on mom and dad and so-and-so, or your partner, or your friend, or your group, or everyone's waiting on somebody else to tell them, you are the person you say you are. Now run into the sunset. And everybody complains as if they want to have the confidence and the strength to accept themselves. But every time that self-acceptance starts running its way into social rejection, everybody runs back. Everybody starts running away and putting their mask back on, putting their clothes back on, putting everything back on to cover up who they really are. Because that fear of just total external rejection is so overwhelming to so many people that more people than not will get crushed under that than ever be turned into the position to say, you know what, the only option I have in these circumstances is fully accepting myself and actualizing from this position of what I know, while continuing to develop my knowing of what I am is. Because now that has become my responsibility. Because I am not supposed to win anymore. When I assume this journey, whether I'm a black sheep of a narcissistic family, whether I'm somebody who's in a narcissistic relationship, whether I'm somebody who's leaving a toxic job, somebody who serving my needs and serving myself sabotages the traditional functioning of the system that is, or the status quo, it's going to be a lonely journey. Because now you're shattering your identity, you're shattering the status quo, and you're forcing everybody to bet on you to prove to them that this reality you're creating or this path that you're pursuing is of more value than what you were subjecting yourself to beforehand. And I won't say that I'm trying to summarize it all, but you have to recognize that The villain identity is simply a part that you play. The reason why like our movies and our stories like in traditional like mainstream culture are so messed up is because you need the villain to just be like a catalyst for the hero's journey all the way until the hero needs to like save the day, and then you go throw the villain off on the end, but you never get into the villain. You never get into the humanity of the villain that inspired them to either sacrifice it to get what they needed or to sacrifice the world to protect the humanity that they haven't shown the world. I'm telling you, man. All my ideas people come to the front. All my visionaries, all my pioneers, all my black sheep, all my everybody come to the front. Let me make sure this recorded good, and then we're gonna snap into the first part right now. New plastic on my wrist. Okay, so you guys know how I love to do that. Basically explain the whole entire video before getting into the video and then taking an extra 45 minutes to explain every single point individually. So how about we get into doing that? And one also, before I get into this, one major inspiration for doing this is my own circumstance, my own separation from my own narcissistic family system, and attempting to, I can't even say attempting to, really doing at this point, building a life for myself that is rooted, it's still in who I am as a collective human being who's lived a full life experience, but as somebody who knows that who I am is on the other side of separating myself from that kind of environment. And in existing in that space, not only would I not be able to feed myself in the ways I need to feed myself to be who I am, like produce this content and whatnot, but I also would have to sacrifice all the abundance that I do create, if any, to the people who were siphoning the energy from me in that current circumstance. Because the energetic relationship was not reciprocal. And that's what I'm starting to look like. A situation like that, a circumstance like that, people you were supposed to depend on turning on you, people that you were supposed to rely on, people that you were supposed to love and care for, and they were supposed to do the same for you, when they take advantage of that, when they take that away from you, when they then blame you for not allowing you access to that, it does so much to the psyche. It's hard to not create an entire lifestyle beyond that, an adult lifestyle beyond unresolved or unaddressed childhood trauma. Because you'll never get another foundation, you'll never get another starter period, you'll never get another 0 age to 7 to 7 to 10 or 7 to 14, you'll never get another youth adolescence, you'll never get another one of those, but every single experience that you experienced down there was so impactful because you will lean on those for the rest of your life, either leaning on the actual experience or you will lean on what you remember from the experience that still affects you to this day. The reason why I called phase 1 or part 1 the bastard's origin story is because this is where we're finally going to get to see, really not even finally get to see, most people know, especially on my page, we have a lot of marginalized people on this page, or just people who've been rejected from their own systems as well, that can kind of resonate with the stories that I tell. So the reason why I called it bastard origin story is because you're starting the game of life, learning to accept yourself. Like, you're not born accepting yourself. You're learning to accept yourself in a world full of self-rejection, but also the environment that's cultivating you is not allowing you an ability to actually do that. It's like everybody's going canoeing, but your canoe has holes in it. And there's no flexi seal, there's no nothing you can use to compensate the holes in your canoe. And everyone's rowing, but you're sinking. You're literally sinking. And nobody's coming to help you because they're just saying, I don't know, everyone else is just so focused on their own thing. And then nobody addressing the holes in the boat of this person that we're talking about. Think about what happens if that person survives that circumstance and then has to swim back to shore. the pain that they're holding on to, and what that can inspire. The feeling of being left behind, the feeling of being forgotten, of being invalidated, of being manipulated, of being gaslit, being taken advantage of, and knowing that nobody was going to come to save you. Not only did people know it was happening and was it happening, but nobody's going to come save you. And if anybody's going to come save you, you have to save yourself. Imagine the kind of pain that develops inside somebody's soul, knowing that they were wronged by a world and they had to save themselves. And imagine when there is no proper, not even truly proper, I don't want to say proper because that reinforces perfectionism. But when there's no healthy self-concept to understand that you are not a consequence of your circumstances, but you're a creator of your reality, and you're somebody who's co-creating reality with your experiences in real time, then you start to develop an identity based on how many circumstances have crushed you, because you're so on the back end of them, rather than realizing, oh, the sooner you develop awareness of the present moment, the more in tune you are and able to influence future events that are coming to you, rather than constantly being on the back end, the brute end of events that keep on passing you by and running right through you to do so. This is, I'll give it up to mainstream media for whether it's movies or it's film or it's TV or it's music that just allows us in this society to not give, depending on what happened, of course, to not give any humanity at all to people who have been put in positions to lash out in ways that are deemed villainous. And we'll definitely get into that, like why the systems that we're living under are built in a way that not only manufactures villains, but makes sure that that punishing villains is more of a sign of respect than putting villains in a position to accommodate their needs so they don't have to sacrifice the external reality to meet them, or to punish the people who denied them the opportunity to meet those needs. One thing about this society which is very interesting is that it abuses like marginalized people, poor people, people that don't have it, abuses them so much. For as much as we talk about Jesus Christ in this culture, in this country, it abuses poor people and people who don't have, and underprivileged people so much in this country intentionally. You can't tell me that like somebody's going to come save them when like we have tax dollars that are actively going to the military, trillions every year. But I mean, I digress. I don't want to get too political now. These people, in accepting the brokenness of their circumstances, actually, this is probably a good transition to get into. These kids, there's an African proverb that says the kids who don't feel the love of the community will end up growing up to burn that community down, or to burn that village down. And tell me how that doesn't resonate. But we live in a society that would rather blame the victims of predatory and exploitative circumstances rather than blame the people who set them up for the means of serving themselves, for the sake of creating heroes that save vulnerable people from these manufactured villains that we've made up, rather than addressing the circumstances that create these villains in the first place. But when you create a society that actually humanizes all people rather than demonizing and dehumanizing specific people for the sake of abusing them socially or culturally, what do you think happens? You can't do human experiments by means of military grade opportunity on poor people, on homeless people, on drug addicts, on people who are mentally ill. You actually have to serve them with the money that you spend on this military that's supposed to scare the people into submission. But we're not going to do that here, man. Come on. Think about the people who built this country, bro. Think about the people who built this shit. Final point that I got to touch on as to why this is called a bastard's origin story is simply because those people who are in the position to recognize, oh shit, my circumstances are bad, but nobody's going to save me out of this. Not no blonde Jesus out of freaking South Africa, not no freaking government welfare program, not no freaking family friend, not no nothing, not no spouse, not no anything is going to come in here and save me other than my own self. You either have to decide to fall victim to the morality Olympics that is like nonprofits and whatnot. That is, oh, I'm living through bad circumstances, but I want to validate my identity as not being a bad person as a consequence from those bad circumstances. So I'm going to participate in a community that says that they're serving some need to hope that the validation of that is going to save or serve my own savior complex. But in that process, I'll get so caught up in the validation of saving other people, I will not save myself and I'll not meet my own needs, because then if I met my own needs, I probably wouldn't need to keep being identified with saving other people. Because at that point, it's probably narcissistic if I'm only doing it for the sake of the identity rather than to actually keep making sure people can meet needs, save themselves, and pass the baton. But again, I digress. The latter, somebody like myself, sees that they're not getting saved from their circumstances. They're not being, nobody's going to help them, especially for not where they've been and to get where they need to be. But nobody's also going to help them to go from where they need to be to where they're trying to go. So what decision do you have to make? And what's crazy is that this type of decision resonates with a lot of people who do like drug dealing and people like on the street. Because there's bills to be paid and jobs aren't hiring. Or my history doesn't allow me to apply for jobs in the same way that you guys do. Or circumstances are saying I need money yesterday and I don't have money and I don't have no source of money coming in for a long time. So what decision am I going to make? Am I going to hope I don't get caught and go the unconventional, illegal route to make sure that I can meet my needs at least? At least meet my needs. But I will be pointed out as the villain for how I'm going to go about doing that. Or am I going to sit and pray that the state comes to save me? Pray that somebody comes to save me from my circumstances that are enslaved to my identity, while never actually being served and never ever being able to go through the experiences that will show me how much power I have to navigate my own experiences and to change my own reality, if I'm willing to take responsibility for changing the circumstances. And those people like us get looked at as the villain because we aren't willing to take society saying, hey, you know what? Chill out, bro. Chill and just wait for somebody to save you. We aren't willing to take that for an answer. So we're the problem. Because if we're successful, we show people that if you believe in yourself, you're not supposed to wait. If you genuinely believe in the world that you desire to live in, if you believe in the person you're supposed to become, if you believe in what you're here to actualize, there is no waiting. There is no time to wait. We're doing this now, all the time now. The people who are waiting are wasting time because nobody's going to come save them. It's only a matter of time until they realize that. And when they do realize that, it's a matter of continuing to reject yourself and just be blatantly ignorant, or seeing how much time you lost actually rejecting yourself and wishing that you started earlier. But so I don't get too lost from the point, people like us are going to get perceived as the villain because we force them to see this whole reality of external salvation is not real. That the luck that they believe in, the miracle they believe in is not real. And mind you, I'm just saying for like in a luck sense. I'm not trying to like disparage or like tear down people's like religion or whatnot. I'm just simply speaking for the sense of you as somebody who is willing to take responsibility for your circumstances and change your life, change your circumstances, change your self-concept. Force other people who aren't to question themselves why they can't do it, why their reality is blocking them, what obstacles they have, because you can do it, especially if you're somebody who doesn't come from shit. Or you're somebody who comes from a broken system and you're not supposed to make it. You force them to see how broken the system is, And you force them to question why they can't do it for themselves. And beyond that, if they don't want to question themselves, then you just force them to defend why they won't choose themselves. And in doing so, they probably also need to slam you down too, or slander whatever you're doing until you reject yourself in the same way they're going to reject themselves. But if you understand that you're pursuing the villain mask, not a villain identity, you're just wearing the mask to stand on your truth for now, because you understand standing on your truth for the long term is way, way, way better return on investment than giving up your truth for the sake of being accepted by others. If you know that, then you're going to be all right. Then you're not going to internalize this shit that's coming from other people in the sense of, oh, you left everybody from your family. You left all these people behind. You decided that work is more important than hanging out with your friends. All of this stuff, like, you decided that going on a personal growth journey is more important than literally ruining other people's lives or ruining your own life. Taking drugs, having sex, doing things that you don't want to do, but every one of your peers are doing, so you should just do it too. Like, people don't. It's almost like a cheat code. The more I start to think about this, it's like a cheat code. Like, if you're willing to be the villain for the sake of standing on your truth and living a life in alignment with who you are, knowing that people aren't supposed to accept you all the time because they only know of you as much as you're willing to express from yourself and as much as you're willing to accept yourself, then how can you lose, bro? It's what they think then. And what they think is at the mercy of what they know, and what they know is at the mercy of what they're willing to believe. And what happens when they're just stupid? How are you going to internalize that? When you're an intellectual, you're somebody who cares about yourself, you're somebody who invests in yourself. Why would you be at the mercy of the opinions or the perceptions of people who don't care about themselves, or they don't care about their reality, and they especially don't care about you? I think it's time to get in the last part. If you just heard me burp, I really apologize for that. I genuinely apologize. All right. I apologize for that. I had to. So this second part, we're going to get more into just how, like, we've already created the villain. We've already said, like, hey, you know what? More times than not, unless just the villain is just a straight POS, like, the villain is manufactured, and the real villain is the person who is manipulating the game overhead so they can manufacture villains for people to be afraid of and to people to be saved from, rather than to address their own lack of accountability and lack of self-awareness, is manufacturing systems that create villains, that force heroes to sacrifice themselves to save people from villains, even though we as a people could come together and actually have genuine people in power to regulate systems that don't manufacture villains. But that's me, just some rando who doesn't wear corporate suits and show up to the office every single day to seek validation. But let's not get too crazy now. Let's not get too crazy on them. I just want to take this back end of this vlog to explain why I will never seek to be the hero again, especially of the people. I am 100% cool being rejected. I'm 100% cool standing on my own 2 feet. I'm 100% cool being my own person when it's not cool to be that. I'm 100% cool riding my own wave for the sake of knowing fundamentally my first relationship, other than the relationship I have with my divine, with the creator, my first human relationship is the one that I have with myself, the one that I reinforce internally to care for myself with my body and with my reality. And in knowing that you don't have to be the villain forever, this is just something you can pursue for the sake of another goal, that the goal is rooted in self-love and true acceptance. Then you realize that the hero is truly the slave. The hero is truly the victim. And the villain, if able to maintain that internal awareness, if able to maintain that psyche of what the goal is, what the purpose is of this mask, of this arc, this is the person who finds true freedom. But I'm telling you, it's like, this is one of those like left-hand path type situations where it's like you're going in and you're just digging everything like straight into the dirt to get to what you want to go, rather than waiting for somebody to kind of come and then build a foundation. And then you find out that, oh, there was like a whole freaking, there's a hole in the ground. And then now your whole entire amazing mansion just fell through a hole. We go to the roots, we plant our seeds, and then we build up. We don't start building without understanding what the soil is. So let's get into this right here. This is why I care not to be the villain, I said that right. I don't want to be the hero, and I'll allow myself to be appreciated for the work that I do. And I'll just continue to do the work for the sake of knowing that like this is my purpose in this world, not for the sake of being validated by other people. Because then if I'm at the mercy of the validation of other people, I start to lose sight of my own internal awareness and my own purpose. Sacrificing, again, myself for others who don't know me, others who were just fortunate enough to appreciate me and help amplify the identity that I'm already cultivating on my own. Inherently, the hero is seeking acceptance. And it may not look like that because we have a bunch of superhero stories where it's like the hero has these cool powers and gets to do all these cool things like fly and shoot lasers out their eyes and whatnot. But they're different than other human beings. And in knowing that being different, especially from the status quo, causes people to be insecure and be afraid, or it forces them to look within themselves and see how much they don't accept themselves and their differences, there is a desire to be accepted as, you know what, I may be different than you, but it's okay because I am still a good person. So I have to prove my goodness rather than know that genuinely I come with good intention, but maybe I'm expressing myself in ways that don't appear to be well intended. But if I'm doing so, or I'm acting in that way, it's probably because I'm attempting to protect my own ability to save myself or my own ability to be myself, not because I hate you or I need to tear from you to protect myself. This is where the hero, and it's so weird because when you're seeking acceptance outside of yourself, it's almost like a cat chasing a laser. Like you're a cat, but you're chasing this laser and you're waiting, like for all the complexity and amazingness and infinite potential that you have, you're now at the mercy of attempting to catch this thing that is just not real. And you're on this, whether you want to call it a hamster wheel or you want to call it a cat chasing, or a dog chasing its tail or a cat chasing a laser, it's just the desire to get something that you'll never truly receive. Because once you get the thing that you want, which is that genuine acceptance, what is the purpose in proving that anymore? Other than being narcissistic. Because you don't need to prove that to anybody if you genuinely accept your goodness and you live a life in alignment with expressing that as fully as you can. You know, and the problem with the inability of going beyond that identity of needing to save other people is that not only do you keep other people subjected to needing to be saved by you, but you create a demand for villains and opposition to either practice your heroic behavior or to continue to reinforce that identity that you can't get over, that you are the savior of these people. And you need to keep being stimulated like a drug almost, keep being stimulated, injected with the validation of the people. What happens when the people give up on you? What happens when the people find a new hero? What happens when the game changes and then now people like the villain? Because the villain just did some cool stuff that the hero could never do. Now what happens? Now you're going to become the villain because that's who they're accepting and that's where the acceptance is. That's why I want everybody to truly look beyond the surface. Because how we're analyzing it here, it's all perspective. Now you can see the hero might actually be at the mercy of circumstances or their situation more so than the villain. And that's what makes the hero so hell-bent on fixing reality, fixing what's wrong. Because the villain forces even the hero. This is also a conclusion I came to right before I made this video. But the villain isn't necessarily just fighting for the sake of fighting the hero. What I'm starting to believe happens in that kind of like beating each other up of the villain and the hero is the villain seeks to expose out of the hero the monster that exists within the humanity of the hero. Because the second that you expose the monster, which is rooted in the humanity of the hero, then you expose to the people that the hero is attempting to save that they aren't credible anymore. They aren't trustworthy anymore. What are we to believe in when this is a monster as well? They're just wearing their mask better. And even beyond that, in discrediting the ability for the hero to be validated like a clout chaser, you end up forcing them to either accept themselves for who they are, or you force them to really question if they even genuinely desire to be this person, or if they're manufacturing situations to validate that identity that I was just describing earlier. And that can drive a savior complex individual into psychosis, because they're never supposed to question themselves that deeply. They're just supposed to go for the sake of the identity and validating that as much as possible. Even if we need to manufacture villains, the United States loves doing this. Even if we have to manufacture villains to validate our own heroism. I hope that's a word. And this is an important part that I can't lose before we move on to the hero or the villain. The hero perpetuates their own pain while never ever knowing true self-acceptance. Because their true validation is on the other side of what the people feel about them. It's not ever on the inside of them being able to know and accept themselves. And to apply this to like a narcissistic family, if we can just get super specific about this, these are the flying monkeys. These are the people that enable, that perpetuate, that incite, that inspire the abuse of narcissism in any way, shape, or form. The people that refuse to validate the reality of the victim, turning them into the villain, but also making them feel like the people that are around them, they can't even trust or believe in. Crazy, crazy, crazy. The reason why I say they don't know self-acceptance, sometimes I like drag off a little bit, and I want to make sure I'm getting the point that I said, even if I do drag from it. They don't know self-acceptance because they'll never, their validation comes on the other side of sacrificing themselves. But if they truly saw the value in what they were, would they need to sacrifice themselves for other people's validation? And that's why I'm going to say it's because whether it's Batman specifically, somebody who says, oh, I'm going to save Gotham, but I'm just going to live like this. I'm going to live like this and not know that my existence as a billionaire is what's creating this debauchery. But I'm going to live like this and just act like I'm saving all these people to validate myself. Or it's, I just had a great example. Or X-Men. And it's them thinking like Professor X saying, oh, we should save humanity, even though every single time after we save them from these freaking aliens or the Sentinels or whatever we're saving them from, they still hate us. They're still like racist, like alien racist. So it's like Magneto is sitting here saying, why are we even protecting them? Like, why do we care about them? Like, they hate us. We're saving them to hate us. Like, isn't that not a sign of hating ourselves fundamentally? Sacrificing ourselves to save people who hate us. Is that not the clearest sign of self-rejection and self-hatred? Giving your full self up for people who wouldn't give up even a drop of tear for you. That's crazy. That's crazy. But let's get into the villain. Let me make sure this is still recording first, because you know how my phone likes to hate me. My phone be my favorite villain. All right, good. All right. Let's get into another important part here, where the hero is seeking acceptance. So they're just inching their way forward in any way they can continue to be validated in this heroic identity. The villain says, you know what? Being accepted don't even matter no more, because even if I am accepted, that might still mean that I can't meet my needs. That might still mean that I reject myself. That might still mean that I hate my reality. I need respect, because that will force, depending on the level of respect, of course, that will force people to appreciate me in the way that I desire to be appreciated, at least in a way that I'm comfortable with. Even if people, and that's why, I don't know if it's like a Machiavellian or whatever the hell. I think it's like a quote from that book, The Prince, and it says, "It's better to be feared than it is to be loved." Personally, I don't believe that, but what I do believe that is it's important for people to fear you just as much as they have the potential to love you. Or else the respect just fundamentally won't be there. And I'm not saying fear of what you do or fear of how you could harm them. Fear in the sense of, I am afraid of disrespecting you because I know that could put me in a position to sacrifice the love and the care and the vulnerability that you share with me. And it's like the way that these religious people talk about fear of God. It's not fear of, I'm supposed to be afraid of that divine greatness outside of me. It's, I'm supposed to fear in a respectful sense that I will not disrespect the relationship that we have. Hopefully we got that understanding good. But the villain demands respect. And that doesn't go alongside the status quo. That does not that does not complement the story that the powers that be want people to be raised into. That shows people that there's way more routes than just one right and wrong path to go on. And it's continuing to stand on and to dig deeper into acceptance of self that allows those opportunities to show up. But further rejection of the self, the further fear of self-acceptance is what drives us into positions to make decisions that force us to self-sacrifice for the sake of seeking acceptance, because we aren't willing to get to that point in our lives where we realize, you know what? Hey, we're going to have to be the final person that stands on the business that we are, and we're going to be the person that makes sure we do it every day. And anybody else who wants to join this party, this caravan, this freaking freak show, they can join us, but I have to do it every day. It's very important that that's happening. We already explained a little bit more about like the scenario that's going on. It's just the recognition of nobody coming to save them from their circumstances unless they do something drastic to get out of them. They become their own savior. But you can even get, as the villain and playing this role, you can even get lost in the appreciation of what assistance is, of accommodation, of being complimented, of being helped, of being loved and cared for. You can really, really find yourself apart from being able to appreciate those things and being able to hold space for them, and also be somebody who can respect them when they're being given to you or blessed unto you in this life. And that's even why, like, one of the main reasons why I had to make this video is because a lot of people get lost in thinking that they're supposed to be the villain and then do things to themselves as like a means of proving that they're the villain to the world. But it's like, dude, you still want love. Pursuing this path is fundamentally one of seeking love at a very, very deep sense. But thinking that it's so deep, you can't get that from anybody. So you need to protect the desire for that within yourself and then turn into a shell of who you are, or end up just driving yourself to seeking validation that will never fill that void that you've created within yourself. It's like, there's really not too much to say, honestly. I have to keep on reinforcing, though, that this is a mask that you wear. And let me tell you this right now. If you pursue this path without the sake of, or without the, personally what I believe is that you're supposed to pursue this to completely release the desire of being accepted or validated from anybody other than people who are willing to love you for who you are. Now, of course, you're still going to be at the you're still going to have to take personal responsibility for developing yourself, for caring for your relationships, for making sure that you're extending yourself out properly. But we're pursuing this path for the sake of almost like fast tracking, finding who loves and cares for us by just going full throttle, exposing ourselves. And just allowing all of these opportunities of just shame, of guilt, of rejection, of failure to be opportunities to dig deeper into ourselves, to grant more self-acceptance rather than overwhelming consequences that force us to reject ourselves even more or just completely suppress ourselves. The funny thing about this villain arc is that the villain gets more times, like in real life. I'm not speaking about superhero villains now. I'm talking about in real life. The person that the community, that the culture, that society paints out to be the villain, that person gets what they want, especially in like these narcissistic families, like the uncle or the aunt that like never comes out to like any events other than like Christmas and then just like comes and shows out and brings all a bunch of gifts and whatnot. The villain gets what they want because they're not at the mercy of making other people happy. They're not at the mercy of or the fear of disappointing others. They're at the mercy of how much they're willing to sacrifice from their external reality to serve their internal desires. And as long as they're willing to have an energetic balance within the self and understand that there is enough for them to reach their wildest goals and dreams without needing to sacrifice the well-being of other people in reality, then it becomes very, very, very hard to lose. It becomes very hard to internalize this projection of villain identity that the world puts on you for not being able to accept the role that they're trying to force you down in. And it allows you to not cling on to this because, again, I'm going to reinforce, you are pursuing this because you want love, you want care, you want to be respected and seen and validated. Accept that for what it is. And it's going to come with a lot of tears, I'm going to tell you right now. Accept that you desire that and accept that your reality or your environment, your circumstances are not giving you that. That's the first step in making any change, acceptance of what is. And in doing that, now we give ourselves an opportunity to see, okay, I need to be willing to be wrong. I need to be willing to disappoint people. I need to be willing to be on the back burner or to hit the sideline and learn from the starters real quick before I get back in the game. Before I put myself out there, before I put myself on the front line. Because by the time I do that again, I want to be able to give everything that I am to this world that hasn't shown me shit. Without needing to, feeling like I desire to take shit from the world because the world hasn't given me anything. I really hope, if you stay to the end of this video, like I really am starting to believe like this is going to just 2025 is going to be the year for all y'all. 2025 is going to be the year for all y'all if you watch this. I'll finish this video right here. With this conclusion that I made. Only thing in green. Oh, dang. We got this in good time. In a perfect world, the villains, mind you, the world we live in right now is the victim blaming one. But in a perfect world, these are the visionaries, the pioneers, the trendsetters pushing the culture forward. The ones that aren't willing to wear the new gear, the ones that aren't willing to be looked at as funny, the ones that aren't willing to be called names and slurs, the ones that aren't, or forgive me, I was saying aren't willing for all that, but I'm really starting to say that aren't afraid of. The people that don't accept the status quo, those are the ones that make life worth living, or at least push this world into areas that allow us to appreciate it for more than what it is on the surface. But in a world where we don't serve those people's needs, in a world where we don't protect that ambition and that genuine authenticity, in a world where we don't serve the people, those people have to end up going above and beyond to serve themselves. And in doing so, it ends up sacrificing the well-being of other people. And that is how we manufacture villains, so we can terrorize more people who have their needs not met, rather than understanding this is a system, whatever system it is you're living in, if it's just like America as a whole, or if it's a narcissistic family, the reason why you're supposed to fear being the villain is because you're not supposed to break status quo. And being painted as the villain is what keeps you in the system as a slave. This takes like I'm telling you right now, this takes mad self-acceptance, bro. So I'm not assuming that this is something that a lot of people are going to apply to their lives, but I'm hoping that it's something that if you've heard these voices kind of in your head telling you like, you know what, I feel like I'm being disrespected. I feel like I'm being done wrong. I feel like I deserve more or better from my circumstances. I hope you know that's right. But you have to be willing to take responsibility for what comes with creating better circumstances. And that's a whole hell of a lot of sacrifices. But if you're willing to do that, bro, I'm telling you, there's nothing that you can't have in this life. If you're willing to sacrifice everything, there is nothing that you can't have in this life. So understand what matters to you, bro. Understand what life you desire to live, and understand where your external reality isn't reciprocating the life that you desire to live, and what you're going to do to get there. Because it gets to a certain point where other people can only be stopping you so much before you're the one that's stopping yourself and creating illusions of limitations that exist. If you're willing to accept yourself for who you are every day and accept that you come to this world with good intentions, knowing there's bad influences, cosmicnomadsrebelsouls.shop, then I guarantee you that you'll be able to navigate a reality that you can fully, fully, fully love and accept. Whoever you are, bro, whatever life you're living right now. But the reason why I make these videos fundamentally is because we're moving towards very, very wicked times. Very wicked times. And it's going to make a lot of people afraid, a lot of people scared, and a lot of people continuing to reject themselves. And I hope that those of us who are in this community of consciousness can continue to cling on to who we are, in spite of all the world wants us to think that we are not, or wants us to think we are as a means of rejecting ourselves. We deserve more. The creatives, the dreamers, the visionaries, the curse breakers, we deserve a lot more than we've been given in this life. And I'm starting to realize sometimes you got to take that shit, bro. Sometimes you just got to take that shit and make it happen. And let these people see your heroic journey based on you being willing to be the villain, rather than you sacrificing your ability to go on a journey to who you are for the sake of being perceived as the villain. Or as the hero, forgive me. Damn it, that was going to be a great outro. All right, I don't care. I'd like to conclude this video by just giving my thanks and appreciation to all you who contribute your attention to this economy. All you guys who share your time and your effort and your love with me. I'm going to put these long videos on Spotify as well. So if you guys want to just listen to them while you're doing something, listen to them while you're working out, while you're taking a walk, while you're making love to your partner, then you can go ahead and do that. But until then, I got videos dropping every day for the rest of 2024. Hopefully you guys appreciate that. If you think I'm cute, you want to have sex, Instagram. Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing love. Thank you for caring about me. Thank you for caring about consciousness, and thank you for caring about yourself. We're going to change the world in a second here, bro. Keep believing. Let's rock out.